Hey everyone! So today we're going to dive into something I think is really powerful. It's a new framework for navigating this whole age of AI. It's called regenerative learning, and it gives us a pretty compelling answer to a question that I bet is on a lot of our minds.
I mean, let's be real. AI is getting smarter at a dizzying pace, right? And it feels like our collective wisdom about how to handle it, well, it's struggling to keep up. Now, that's a huge challenge for sure, but it's also a massive opportunity. The real question is, how do we navigate all this without losing touch with what makes us human? To figure that out, we actually need to go back in time to the very beginning of this dream.
All right, so section 1, the original dream. Because, to really get where we're going, you got to understand where this whole thing started. And this idea of humans and computers being partners is not as new as you might think. It has a really fascinating backstory.
Okay, so picture this. It's 1960. We're talking way before the internet, before smartphones, before any of this stuff. And this computer science pioneer, J.C.R. Lickletter, he has this absolutely incredible vision. He called it man-computer symbiosis. He was dreaming of a true partnership, where machines would augment our brains, not just replace them. And look, Lickletter's idea was brilliant, no doubt about it, but it was incomplete. He was really focused on a mental partnership, right? Just the thinking mind working with the computer. But now, with AI moving at light speed, we're starting to realize we need something more. We need a whole being symbiosis, one that brings in our gut feelings, our intuition, our bodily wisdom. And why that's so crucial? Well, that became crystal clear through a really personal and, honestly, pretty painful story.
Which brings us to our next section, when the water turned red. See, this whole framework, it wasn't cooked up in some lab or at a fancy conference. Nope, it was born from a crisis. A moment of just profound disillusionment that ended up revealing a really critical truth about the world we're all swimming in.
So, the story starts in the fast-paced, kind of glittering world of modern business. You know the vibe. A new professional partnership kicks off, and it seems super promising. Everything's moving fast, everything's shiny. But what started out looking like mentorship, well, it pretty quickly started to feel different. It started to feel extractive.
Lines started to blur. Gut feelings, they were just brushed aside. Where are the metrics, was the constant refrain. And then, something really simple happened. A security warning from LinkedIn, of all things. And that was the catalyst. Suddenly, the whole picture snapped into focus. And it was ugly. The realization hit. I was just bait in someone else's game. And here's the crazy part. Before my brain could even fully wrap its head around the betrayal, my body already knew. It wasn't a logical, thought-out decision. It was purely somatic. It was my body's intelligence screaming at me that I had to get out now.
That whole ordeal taught me something absolutely fundamental. There are basically two kinds of systems out there. You've got your extractive ones, let's call them the sharks. They're all about speed, scarcity, competition, pure predation. But then you have regenerative systems. Think of them like coral reefs. They're built on rhythm, reciprocity, collaboration. They're all about creating these healthy ecosystems where everything and everyone can actually flourish.
So, as painful as that was, it led to this huge aha moment, a breakthrough. It became so clear that we need a new way to navigate the world, a new kind of equation, you could say, to help us build more of those reefs and a lot fewer of those shark tanks, both in our lives and in our work.
And that's where this idea of regenerative intelligence came from. At its heart, it's a practice of integration. It's about how we can take all this raw information that's flying at us and actually transform it into real wisdom. And the key is bringing together all the different ways we know things, all the ways we perceive the world.
You can actually boil the whole idea down to a pretty simple but, well, I think it's profound formula. You take human intelligence, add algorithmic intelligence, and then combine that with somatic intelligence and spiritual intelligence. And what do you get? Regenerative intelligence.
So let's break that down, right? Human intelligence, or HI, that's our empathy, our storytelling, our ethics. That's what humanizes the data. Then you've got AI, algorithmic intelligence. That gives us precision, pattern recognition, and scale. SI1, somatic intelligence, that's the wisdom of your body. It's your gut feeling, your intuition, your sense of rhythm. It's what grounds the learning. And finally, SI2, spiritual intelligence. This is about meaning, conscience, that sense of awe. It's the glue that connects all the systems.
And when you bring all four of those together,
in balance. What you create is a healthy, whole system. It's like an ecology of consciousness. The point isn't to say one is more important than the others. Not at all. It's about recognizing that we need every single one of them to navigate this world wisely.
Okay, so this all sounds like a really beautiful theory, right? But the big question is, does it actually work in the real world? Well, let's take a look at how this framework is being put into practice in a way that's super focused on community.
Because here's the thing. A philosophy is pretty meaningless if it doesn't serve the commons, if it doesn't help everybody. And that's exactly why this work is being centered in one of our most important public spaces, the local library.
The whole practice follows this really natural rhythm. First, you learn. This is the window part, where you reflect. Then, you integrate. This is the door. You walk through it with community action. And finally, you illuminate. This is where you use new tools for insight. It's really important to see it's not some game you're trying to win. It's a rhythm you learn to live in. And this whole rhythm is guided by 5 super clear ethical principles. Things like integrity before efficiency. I love that one. It reminds us to feed the algorithm with our integrity, not our insecurity. Or community before commodity, which is all about putting human connection way ahead of just transactions. Every single one of these is like a compass, always pointing us toward that more regenerative way of being. And guess what? The impact is real. It's clear. They've run these pilot workshops in rural libraries, and the results have been just incredible. We're talking more community engagement, people feeling less anxious about AI, and a huge boost in their creative confidence to actually use these new tools for something good.
So, where does that leave us? What does all this mean for you and me right now? Really, it's an invitation to shift how we see things and to start actively participating in building a more humane future with technology, not against it.
Look, this whole narrative of humans versus machines, it's a dead end. It gets us nowhere. This isn't a race against the machines. It's a reunion with our own potential. It's a chance to become more whole, more connected, and to really rediscover the entire spectrum of our own intelligence that we might have forgotten. And that brings us right back to where we started, with Licklider. His dream back in 1960 was that machines would extend our attention. Well, the regenerative dream kind of completes that thought. Let the machines handle attention. Our job, our uniquely human task in all of this, is to extend meaning.
Ultimately, what this is all about is becoming a lighthouse. Think about it. A lighthouse doesn't chase after ships. It doesn't try to dominate the ocean. It just shines. It's about tending to our own light, our own awareness, with so much care and integrity that the coastline becomes visible for everyone. So the final question, the one I want to leave you with, isn't really about the tech at all. It's about us. It's about you. In this wild, rapidly changing world, how are you going to cultivate all the parts of your intelligence? How will you tend to your own light?